So this past weekend was UFC 300, stacked card all around. We had the match with Oliveira and Arman, and at the end, Oliveira throws in a nice deep darce choke, but doesn't get the finish. I want to talk about some things that he could have done to actually get this finish from here, because I love darce chokes. I love everything about darce chokes. Now, he hits this really well. I think the big mistake that he made, if he was actually trying to secure the finish, was that he locked the choke from turtle. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm able to get this darce choke in here and I can squeeze, I can get the finish from here. But the thing that Arman does is he starts tucking his left arm back. So let's turn a little bit, right? He tucks his left arm back, which takes the pressure off this side of the neck. So even, get my arm in here first. So even if I sit here and I start squeezing, it sucks, but Cash will be able to kind of hang out here until the end of the round. And on top of that, Arman goes all the way prone to his belly, again, preventing me from being able to actually get the finish. And that's where you kind of just see Oliveira just kind of sitting here hanging out. So again, this is deep, but Arman does a nice job of protecting by basing this arm out, which again is a very common defense. So one thing that I think he should have done at the get-go was not lock the choke up initially. So when we're in this turtle position, one thing that I always try and emphasize with my students is when we get here, I want to break the posture and I actually want to look to dump them on their side first, so that as I go here and I pressure behind that arm, now all I have to do is lock it, but this arm is trapped, and even if I have somewhat of like a shittier darce position, I'm going to be able to get that tap a lot faster. Now, when we're chopping down on his head, there's a couple things you have to kind of keep in mind. Number one, I got to have a good gable grip behind the head. I need to chop down on this back of the head with this forearm, and I want to immediately start kind of dumping him. Now, the benefit of also doing this method first is that as I start trying to turn him, Cash is going to be actively trying to defend his posture and trying to stay up rather than defending the choke per se. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to be able to eventually kind of get him to work down, and even if he starts kind of going back to his belly at this point, I can start kind of circling off and preventing it altogether. Another thing that you can do to kind of simplify that as well is kind of put a little bit of a torque on the neck. And essentially what I'm going to do is, if his head's head on, I'm going to kind of turn his head this way and then also kind of drive the chin towards me. And it just puts a little bit of pressure on the neck, which makes it difficult for Cash to be able to posture, right? So when I get into this position, my top arm is not only chopping down, but I'm driving his head this way. Now I'm taking my bottom hand and I'm pulling this chin up. Again, puts a little bit of a torque on the neck so that if Cash starts trying to posture and defend that area, it makes it difficult, but it makes it easier for me to kind of dump him right over. And then right away, again, we circle, I shoot this nice and deep, I can lock it up. Now when I go hip off my knees and I hip into him, I'm behind the tricep all the way. So even if Cash does try to bring that arm back, right, I can squeeze and I can still get the darce choke. So that's one thing that he should have done, in my opinion, was just, again, not lock it up necessarily right out of the gate. If we go to where Arman was, where he was completely proned out, right, on going on your stomach, and he had that arm pulled back, again, if I'm here and I'm just squeezing, this is uncomfortable. But again, especially at like that level, short time on the clock, you know, Cash is gonna be able to kind of hang out here and just kind of deal with the pressure, but it's not choking him per se. So one thing that I need to do is get him back up to his hips. How do I do that? I'm gonna keep this nice and tight, or I'm gonna come back and kind of like lock here. Either way, I've got to keep the pressure. Again, just depends on your body size, right? But I want to ideally start kind of walking down. Now I've got short arms, so I'm gonna kind of have to come here a little bit, but I'm gonna look to hook this leg and start pulling his knee up to his shoulder, which makes it very uncomfortable. So if Cash actually tries to stay on his belly, it's gonna be very uncomfortable for him. So essentially what I'm doing is using this to get him to turn up onto his side. Now again, at this point, that allows me to get this arm positioned where I need it to be. If I was at the gable grip, I can right away switch back to the full darce, squeeze, and I can get the pressure from there. At this point, I can also turn to the side here and really start kind of pulling them in and make it a little bit tighter as well. The other option that we had is, again, let's go back as if Cash is Arman, he's on his belly, right, flatten out. If we go back to this position again, another thing that he could have done is actually come up to the front at this point. Again, I don't remember what time was on the clock, but I don't think there's that much time left. But if we had the time or we're just trying to finish it, one thing I can do is take this overarm, switch it to a guillotine. And all I'm looking to do is trap right underneath the chin. Again, get like a deep chin strap a little bit. And I'm not pulling his head up this way. I want to start kind of just pressuring up on his neck. And what I'm looking for him to do is for this guy to, again, kind of like post up a little bit to start defending it, right? Because he doesn't want to get his neck cranked. At this point, what I'm looking to do is I can either just pull him this way, or I can switch to kind of like a front underhook, so like a cow catcher position. And now as I pull the neck out this way, I'm going to toss him off to the side, position my hip onto his body, pressure in, pull up, and we're going to kind of get like that cow catcher guillotine as well. So you could have easily kind of transitioned to that in the process. So either way, there's no reason why you can't finish obviously the darce choke from here, and I'm not one to sit here and say that, you know, Oliveira was doing anything wrong in that sense, right? Just again, understand that this is a common defense with the darce of tucking that arm back, going down to your belly, and again, as long as Cash can keep this near side arm pulled back, it's gonna be very difficult for me to be able to finish that darce choke from there. So again, I just prefer that anytime I get into a darce choke position off of turtle specifically, is I wanna focus on chopping this head down and breaking this posture, because one, this is just uncomfortable for them to begin with, but two, if I can get them here, then it's just a matter of sinking it in, and I have a lot better chance of actually getting the finish from there. And then yeah, as always, we can easily switch to anacondas or any variation of guillotine off that, but those are 3 ways that I think Oliveira could easily switch, got the finish, and actually won that fight.